So I've always loved audio. I've always loved electronics.
Mm.
When I got a little bit older, my dream job was to work at a place like Circuit City.
All right, everybody, this will be the first time we've done this together, and this will be the last time that I'm the host for a few minutes, just sort of introduce you to what our plan is here. For those of you who don't know, this is Michael Stevens. He's my business partner on the Obsessed Home Theater business, which really we're kind of figuring out there is no separate business. It's all one thing, right? Which is Obsessed Life. And the dialed in some obsession required was the title that Brian Orr and I came up with years ago. And so I think that the concept stays the same. We're bringing in, I continue to bring in all these talented people around me that are obsessed with, either a portion or all of, this lifestyle. Right. And so the thing I asked Michael to do here, Michael is not a car guy. He's not a garage guy. He's a home theater guy. He's an electronics guy, right? And so his first apprehension was, I don't know, man. I don't know if I should be the host of this. And my comment, my rebuttal to that was, hey, I think this is more what I want this podcast to be, and what it always has been, and what I want it to become is a sort of a deep dive into just life
Mhm.
and what it means to be obsessed in life. And you have such an inquisitive natural nature that I said, man, it'd be great if Michael would come over and kind of host this thing and keep me on track. Each episode, we're going to have different themes:
Mhm.
garage, electronics, finance, business, and some of which we know something about, some of which we don't. And
Yeah.
you're going to sort of come along the ride with us to discover this stuff. And so, Michael, could you give a little background on you? Give me like the 5-minute Michael Stevens youth man story,
Yeah.
and let's kind of get the people up to speed, and then we'll dig into today's topic.
Sure. So again, my name is Michael Stevens. So I have been passionate about home theater, audio since the days of car audio. So that's kind of where I started my journey back in high school, installing my first head unit. Sony detachable face, goes back a long way. Built my own subwoofer box. So I've always loved audio. I've always loved electronics. Um, when I got a little bit older, my dream job was to work at a place like Circuit City, because I thought that's where the cool kids get to play with all the cool toys, all the things that I love and I'm passionate about. So I got a job there and in the home theater department, and just really loved providing demos for people, especially people that only had like a TV in their living room. They didn't know what good sound was. Now, of course, in the home theater department, we're kind of limited on the space. It's not an ideal dedicated theater room, but it was good enough to provide this surround sound, is what we referred to it just back then. And so I just got the hook, and even at a young age, I'd find myself even working there. I would still go over to Sound Advice. And Matt, you worked there a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
So Sound Advice, used to love going there. I even remember as a teenager, I'd go there pretty much every weekend, just going through the different home theater rooms. I'd spend hours, 2, 3 hours, just listening and really just longing for the day that one day I might be able to afford something that nice. And I never dreamed that I would be doing what I'm doing now, which is doing full-time content creation in the niche primarily of home theater. But that passion continued into my early adulthood and mid adulthood, and just continued to love that. So we moved into this home right at about 18 years ago. And my wife, she was used to speakers always being in the living room. And it was her idea to have a dedicated theater room. And I remember at the time I'm thinking, man, only rich people could have a dedicated theater room. And I was far from rich. But we found a home, which was this one. Had a 13-foot by 19-foot room, and it wasn't a dedicated theater room. It was called a media room on the floor plan. So it was basically no closet, had a double sliding glass door on one side, a window on the other side. But I walked in the room, it's 13 foot by 19 foot, 10-foot ceiling. And I'm like, this could work. Like, this could be just a cool space that we could watch movies, watch TV, listen to music. And so over a period of several years, and really it's still continuing to evolve even now, just building out a place that my family, my friends, and guests, and even now with Obsessed Home Theater, we've got new clients and customers that are coming in kind of to my little showroom here in my house. And so I love pretty much everything surround sound. There's something about stepping into a room, watching a movie, and forgetting you're watching a movie. I want to be immersed in it. So I've got a big 150-inch diagonal screen in my theater room, um, 2 rows of theater seating. We got a full JTR system. There's 11 speakers, 2 subwoofers. I've got 418. So I love bass. I love tactile. I want to feel it. I want to be drawn into the movie. So that passion has been there since I can remember. And so I just love everything about home theater, love everything about just that emotional connection that you get when you're listening to your favorite song or you're watching this really incredible story driven movie that just kind of draws you in. You get to kind of check out from reality for a little while. You get a chance to unplug and really just kind of escape for a little bit, and you enjoy that together with friends and family. And so that's my little short story of kind of who I am and why I'm so passionate about home theater.
And so, to bring everybody up to date here, I've told this story a bunch, but I saw Michael at Cedia and took him to dinner, and I came up with this concept of, you know, the obsessed garage, and the distribution. So the back end business that I've built, we could bolt on my other passions, and so I also recognize that I can't do the same thing. I mean, I make 8, 7, 8 videos, 10 videos a week sometimes. And so I can't do that same thing on my, say 20% of my passion, which is
Mhm.
home theater and electronics and audio in general. And so that's when I, was at CD and I said, hey, and I pitched you the idea, hey, why don't we do this together? And so then we've started, the website is already live. Go to
Mhm.
obsessedhometheater.com. I don't mean this to be a commercial for
Yeah.
Obsessed Home Theater at the moment. I just want to tell you Michael's background and how we kind of got together here. And with Chris, moving on to his next career move, I was thinking about who could become the host of this. And so, our common passion, common interest in electronics and speakers and receivers and all that stuff. And then the fact that we're kind of in business together doing this would make sense for us to dig into various topics, because what the live stream had become is sort of the same, 20 or 30 questions. I want to get a little deeper than that. And so we're going to pick a topic. Some of those topics have been submitted by you. So you can only shoot an email to WAHBA, WAHBA, at obsessgarage.com, or just send it to anybody, support@obsessgarage.com or matt@obsessgarage.com.
We'll make sure it
Um,
gets to the right person.
yeah, we'll make sure it gets to who you wanted to get it to, who we need to get it to, so that way Michael can then take that topic and then steer me in the right direction. So it's gonna take us a little while to kind of get our footing here on how this is gonna work. But I want to dig into various topics on, those 5 major things: life, business, electronics, finance, and say garage, we'll call it. I can fit pretty much anything in
Mm.
life into those 5 things,
Yeah.
right? And so we're going to dig into those topics. I've also started a podcast in the Inside the Hex, called Figuring Out Mentorship, which is a dedicated deep dive into business. So Michael
Mhm.
and I, if we cover business or finance, we'll semi deep dive. We'll like surface level dive into it, and then the really really deep business stuff, the really inside access stuff, will be inside the Hex. So, Michael, what's our topic for today? Have you kind of put something together for us? What are we going to do today?
Yeah, so like Matt said, we're going to be covering all types of topics. And I thought one that would kind of intertwine something that I'm at least a little knowledgeable about with something that you're extremely obsessed with, and that is the garage, but in particular, the audio in the garage. So I've
Okay.
watched your channel over the past, gosh, I think I found your channel 5 years ago. And then I
Mhm.
filmed your home theater tour. It's how we kind of got connected. But I've watched your channel over the years, and you began to put speakers in a garage. And so I think there's number one, it's intriguing to me because as I hope we're going to be able to pull out through this discussion, there's a lot of challenges in a garage. We're
Mhm.
going to talk about like why do we even want to do that? And so I just wrote down some questions I thought would be just good conversation. And then we've even got a question that come from one of your subscribers, and so we'll dive into that as well. But maybe the first place to start off is, why does audio even matter in a garage? Like, why did you make the decision to place speakers in your garage?
So, I mean, I listen to music primarily in two spaces. And one of those spaces, and we can talk more about, maybe it's a topic someday. One of those spaces I've kind of lost is the car because I haven't been
Mhm.
driving very much the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
But the two places I will take time, because you're kind of trapped in a spot, and usually either driving or working on something specific, say in the garage.
Mhm.
The two spaces I listen to music is in the car and in the garage. I was watching one of your recent home theater tours, and it was one of your longtime buddies, and he had a dedicated music room, and he said, just blew my mind. He's like, I listen to like an hour to 2 hours of music every single day.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so he takes time to go into the room, sit down, decompress, listen to different tracks, and probably looking for the nuance of maybe something he hadn't heard before. I don't do that. Right. I'm always a multitasker, right? So I'm
Sure.
always doing I like to fill my brain with multiple things because if I don't, this is where the OCD comes in.
Mhm.
I head down either negative or I fill it up with stuff. What ifs? I
Yeah.
ruminate. That's what my psychologist calls it. I tend to ruminate on things. So I find that I'm at my happiest
Mhm.
when sort of what most people would be overly stimulated. I need to all this stimuli in order to stay in the moment, to stay present. And so, so if I sat down in a room and took time to listen to music, I probably would be off. My brain would be off in other things, worrying about
Yeah.
other things instead of focused in on the one thing. And so I find I love music. I like to listen to it, but I will
Mhm.
never take the time to do it. So I always like it to fit into different places. And the place I spend probably the most time in my life is, used to be in the car, but now is in the garage.
Yeah.
And so if I'm going to be in the garage and I'm going to listen to music, me, I'm not doing a JBL little
Right.
speaker, little Bluetooth speaker. I want to do it and do it
Yeah.
well. And so I'm listening to music in the garage, generally while I'm doing something else that I'm passionate about at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. You've taken this obsession, and I've seen this, like I said, over the years. Your obsession doesn't just stop at the garage. Your obsession is every part of your life. And so the things that you're interested in, those are going to overlap. And even on this podcast, this is where I see all of these different aspects that we're going to talk about. There's going to be a lot of overlap. The finance is going to tie into the garage, and the business, and all of these things are going to, even home theater. I'm going to see a lot of these kind of interwoven elements of each one. And so I definitely appreciate that. And your pursuit of excellence, I think, is what really sets you apart from just the average Joe. Like you said, the average guy, number one, probably doesn't even think about putting speakers in his garage. And a lot of them probably are just going to put the broken speakers,
The
the speakers they don't
secondary,
really
right? The
care
leftover.
about it.
Right, right.
Yeah. So I can
Or
appreciate
it's
how
like, I've got these old speakers, I don't wanna throw them away, so I
Mhm.
wanna use them for some place, and then they
Correct.
end up going in the garage, and I would be surprised if most, car or garage people end up using those speakers more than their
Mhm.
fancy speakers that they have somewhere else in their life, somewhere else in
Yeah,
their home.
yeah.
And so I don't want to cut corners in my garage, but it's not particularly a great listening environment. Now, before I explained the 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 reason why, I mean, you as a non-garage
Mhm.
person, I mean, what was your initial thought when you saw, I've got these $15,000 speakers on the website? How did you think about that? What was your initial thought on that?
Well, I never judge anybody on how they spend their money. You mentioned that music brings you joy, and that's hard to put a price tag on. You know, when I can do something that will bring myself pleasure, as long as it's in a positive manner, when I can do that with my family, it's hard for me to go, that's too much money.
Mm,
And so I think spending money on something that helps you to be sane, not just you, but us all,
mhm.
helps us to kind of recharge from the stuff in life that kind of beats us down at times. Dude, I mean that's a lot more money than probably a lot of people like myself would put into a garage. But who knows? 10 years, 5 years, 3 years down the road, I think you might be able to convince me to head down that
Yeah, I mean,
direction and
it so part of what drives me, and this is a curse. It's a blessing and a curse,
mhm,
is an overwhelming and crushing need, right? I have this need, where and I don't get it. I haven't gotten anything easily, right? So it's
mhm,
not like I bought these Audio Core 59, speakers with the core sub, and spent all this money on the speakers for the garage. It's not like I got that day one,
yeah,
right? I
I
wasn't
understand.
like born with a silver spoon where I just bought the speakers. Now it's a value decision, right? I
Mhm,
value that. I just explained why I like to have a decent listening experience in the garage. I value it. It is background listening,
mhm,
so we'll get into the nitty gritty of the deficiencies of the garage here, I'm sure.
yeah,
But this obsession for me usually shows up in this need, and that need is almost always. I have like a natural internal barometer of risk, but the need always pushes reasonably, say it pushes chest deep into the risk pond, you know what
okay,
I'm saying?
yeah,
Where most people wouldn't even step in the water, right?
right,
But that need is what drives me into the water deeper than I probably should go, but
mhm,
never enough to where I'm gonna drown,
right,
if that analogy makes sense.
yeah, yeah,
And
totally,
so the very first set of speakers I put in my garage, I don't even know what it was, but years ago I put,
mhm,
very first speakers I put in, um, and I always there was always some um, thought process that went into what speakers I'm choosing,
sure,
actually, I do know the very first speakers I put in my garage were the speakers I had bought for my gym that I'd built downstairs. This is in the first house that I was making YouTube videos on. They were
mhm,
Klipsch outdoor speakers, which are
mhm,
terrible for the garage. I wanted them for the home or the gym because I wanted to
mhm,
just have super efficient, really loud speakers that didn't take a really expensive receiver. They got then moved to the garage, what you explained earlier, like leftover speakers. I didn't want to sell them for 50% off, and I didn't want to waste them, and so they went in the garage. But the first pair of speakers that I put were Audio Excite 12s,
okay,
and so under this, the guys that I love the sound signature of Audio, the Silk Dome tweeter, so it would be under control. But
mhm,
that was a bottom used on Audio Gone, but they were, say $1,000 pair of speakers that I put in the garage because I really found that even with the Klipsches in there, I really valued that listening experience rather than bringing out my, DeWalt, battery powered little radio or something I'm
right,
trying to, wire my cell phone up to. or iPod up to at the time. So the need is what's always driven me toward doing something that wasn't very fiscally responsible,
Mhm.
but the I do have a risk-taking barometer that again would only drive me chest deep, not nostril deep, you know?
Right.
And so I've been always been able to kinda go a little further than I should, but
Mhm.
not so far that it's ridiculous, you know, not so far that I'm going to sink myself. And now, you know, I could buy any speaker I want, you know, but there's a line. I'm not
Mhm.
sure what maybe we can figure out what that line is in life here
Sure.
together over the course of many podcast episodes. But there is a line that you would draw at some point, and a lot of it has to do with, you know, we all have a breaking point of when diminishing returns shut us down.
Yeah. I know one thing that you've alluded to is the journey. A lot of times on my channel, people will look at what I have in my theater room and they're thinking, man, I'm not there yet. And that's okay. There's a great avenue to get there. Same thing in the garage space. You may not start out where you're, the Matt Mormon of today. You might start off where the Matt Mormon was 5, 10, 20 years ago when you weren't at a financial position that you're at right now. And being able to enjoy where you're at, I think is so key. So many people, they're so focused on where they want to be down the road, they miss the opportunity to enjoy where they're at right now, whether that's in
Mhm.
their car, with a car, a home theater, a home. And so I've just always been an advocate to enjoy the journey, enjoy the process of getting to that. To me, I don't think the destination is really what I'm after. I'm just after the chase. I'm after the fun. I'm after the thrill. I'm after the steps that I take to get to where I want to be. I think to me, that's where I find a lot of joy.
I've I've been spending quite a bit of time thinking about this concept, the journey, destination, and you know, I've kind of ebbed and flowed on. First, I was blind to the whole concept, right? I'm
Mhm.
just living in the darn destination,
All right.
blindly, crushingly, you
Yeah.
know, not healthily living at the end of whatever that end was,
Yeah.
right? And then spent a lot of time trying to figure out what that is because this is a big thing for me, and I'm sure for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so then I was on this, well, you've really got to just stay in the journey. You've got to stay there. But I'm starting to learn as I think more, think like multiple levels, think of this from different angles, from multiple perspectives, that crushing need or that pursuit of the destination is just as important as enjoying it
Yeah.
while you're in it. And in fact, there may be even a little bit of healthiness to not enjoying it
Mm.
because you may get stuck, and you
Yeah.
may now blind pursuit is negative. Apathy is not what you're looking for, this
Mhm.
yin and yang.
Yeah.
You wanna be present, you want to
Yeah.
enjoy it. When you do
100%.
get, say, that big speaker for the speaker you've been idolizing in your garage, it's not the ultimate,
Mhm.
but it's something you really think is gonna be good.
Yeah.
And then when you get that, the what's next question, I think, is still very valuable.
Mhm.
Now, if it's blind and you alienate everybody around you and blow
Right.
up all relationships and
Yeah.
it's like this crushing,
That's
which has
unhealthy.
been my life for most of it, right? This blind ambition, this need, this crushing desire for when the car that I've been coveting forever shows up, I'm not even there with it. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's
Sure.
living in the destination.
Correct.
But then, "Oh, I'm okay with this JBL Bluetooth speaker. It's good." It's something that I really pursued, and I'm okay with that. I
Yeah.
think that's equally, but
Yeah.
oppositely not
Right.
great,
Yeah.
because then you won't contribute to the world at the level that you could had
Mhm.
you not have a bit of blind ambition.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's
There's
a
some
there's a balance here to that, I
Yeah.
think.
Well, there's something to be said to be all in on something, all in on the pursuit and the journey. And I know there's going to be different people. Some people are just going to, like you said, they're going to kind of dabble in the garage space. They're going to dabble maybe in some music in there, but really that's not the obsessed life that we're talking about. The obsessed life says, man, what can I do in my garage to make this a really incredible space? What can I do that makes me want to go out and hang out in my garage versus doing something that, like just sitting around trimming your toenails, I mean, just something that's non-productive, something that isn't
Well,
going
going
to take your life further.
something you said there just sparked something in me. So when you go all in on something,
Mhm.
you have to sacrifice something else,
Yeah, that's
right?
true. Mhm.
Right. Let's say there's a finite amount of energy and time.
Yeah.
And so if you go all in, you're going to make sacrifices. Now, if you won $1 billion or something,
Mhm.
maybe you don't have, maybe you can go, maybe you don't have, you're not resource constrained.
Yeah, you can bypass a
Let's
lot.
say everybody's resource constrained to some extent.
Yeah.
So your resource exchanged, your energy, your energy constrained, you are time constrained,
Mhm.
you are relationship constrained. But if I go all in on something that I'm passionate about, that's going to hopefully I won't go all out of things that are valuable to me, things that are a
Yeah.
contribution to me. I won't quit on things
Mhm.
that matter, but I will quit on things that aren't constructive.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have time to go to the bar.
Mhm.
I'm all in on this thing. I don't have time to waste money on something that is frivolous. You
Right.
know, I don't have I'm not gonna gamble. I'm not going to take, hopefully if you go all in on something
Mhm.
and you share it with others, you'll develop some form of relationship, some human benefit from that,
Yeah.
but you'll drop off some negatives in your
Mhm.
life.
Yeah.
And if you do that, even if the world believes it's this material thing like a speaker in my garage, chances are, if I spend money on that, I spent time on that, it attracts me to the garage where
Yeah.
positive things happen for me, and I include others in it. It doesn't have to be I'm going to include the world on
Right.
YouTube, but it could be
Yeah, sure.
include your neighbors and your friends to create an
Mhm.
excuse to invite them over to,
Right.
listen to some music and change the transmission or something like that. You get a couple of buddies over, but it meant that you didn't do these three other things that you would have
Mhm.
wasted money on, wasted time on, and then wasted, your future potential on, or would have alienated you from relationships. So doing that, to me, I think is the hope is that if you do have this crushing need and this materialistic desire for speakers in the garage, that there, if you think about it a little bit more in a more complex fashion, that maybe there's maybe you can figure out a way to make that a benefit rather than, and I know I'm getting really existential over a pair
Yeah.
of speakers in the garage, but to me, this
Yeah.
is what
And
it
plans.
means to me. It's that important. I'm that all in on it
Yeah.
that it's not just this halfway. It's all in, and then I'm able to observe if I'm present and I'm in the journey, I'm able to observe the positive byproduct of what could be very easily looked at as a negative. I wasted money. I bought something that doesn't really belong there, uh,
Mhm.
the other negative aspect would be, well, it encourages you to go in there by yourself and not include others. But I think if you're in the journey of it and you're not blindly ambitious about
Mm.
trying to get $250,000 pair of speakers in your garage
Yeah.
just because,
Right.
then there can be some positive byproduct to it.
Sure. So let's talk about the garage space a little bit and how that relates to audio. So when I think of a garage, I think of almost worst case scenario. I
Hmm.
mean, we've got a hard surface, walls, hard ceiling,
Hmm.
hard floor. You've got vehicles that are made of metal. You've got tool cabinets that are made of metal. That's not quite ideal. And so I would love to kind of just pick your brain on What have you found over time that works well for that type of environment?
So all those potential negatives you just explained are things that will scare most people away. So, I'm
Mm,
like, that's why I'm just gonna just buy a JBL Bluetooth speaker and just stick it on the countertop.
yeah.
Then I can use that speaker in the shower and take it on the boat and use other things. Use it for other things too. And so the common rebuttal to me buying fancy speakers for the garage is, well, it's a terrible listening environment, and I
Mhm.
don't disagree. And I'm also not gonna go and, like, buy a bunch of acoustic treatments to put in the garage, you know?
Right.
They're gonna
Yeah.
get all dusty and covered in bugs and, mildewy, and it just isn't gonna work out very well unless, I keep the garage closed all the time and it's conditioned all the time. And so, generally, I'm not going to treat the room.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna change the floor. I'm not gonna park my cars outside because I want great music. The garage is for my cars, right?
Right.
I'm not gonna give up the tools and the metal cabinets and do things just to appease the audio,
Mhm.
and so but I'm still not willing to give up.
Mhm.
I don't wanna give up.
I love that.
And so the first thing that I do is I'm looking for a speaker that can do its best in there.
Mhm.
And then I'm also looking for something that I have this attraction toward. I want to want it.
Yeah.
I wanna chase it. I want it to feel, there's something about, when you do go in chest deep in risk and you spend too much money on something, it makes you love it a little bit more,
Mm.
you know. And in my younger years, it made me love it a little bit more than I should, to the point of, coveting it.
Mhm.
So, I'm looking for a speaker that is more laid back. I'm looking for a subwoofer or speakers that can produce enough bass to fill a rather open void.
Sure.
I want generally an obnoxious amount of bass in the garage. It's more
Mhm.
fun.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing I'm looking for is, I wanna be able to really let it rip, not
Yeah.
just in the bass, but the whole thing. At times, I'm in there, the doors are closed, I'm not bothering anybody. I wanna be able to, like, get some SPL out of it, get some amplitude out of it. And then I also wanna make sure that I can stream high res, high quality.
Mhm.
Again, the room is gonna cancel out a lot of the a lot of the positives of getting
Sure.
all this great equipment.
Yeah.
But what I found works really well is a Dynaudio near field monitor, so a flat face.
Mhm.
And so a near field monitor is designed for me to be like right here in a recording studio listening to
Correct.
something very close.
Right.
But the problem with most near field monitors is they don't have the output, they don't have the amplitude.
Mhm.
So now I got to spend a bunch of money on a speaker that has a big amplifier and
Right.
decent sized drivers. And then I have this love affair. So all these things check the boxes. I have
Mm.
this brand attraction. I have a Silk Dome tweeter, which is more laid back.
Sure.
I have a speaker that has a pretty robust amplifier. It also has the type of finish, it's kind of like that DJ Rhino lining looking finish, like
Mhm.
DJ speaker type finish, and it's near field, and so it tends to be a little bit more subdued from a dispersion perspective.
Mhm.
And then if I add in some sort of room correction software, I can overcome, say, 50% of those deficiencies and make it so that I can have a really enjoyable experience, not just nonsense, low volume background listening, but I can really knock it out of the park and really
Yeah.
smile. And I know, well, we know what a good speaker, what a good room, what a good pair of speakers should sound like.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking to replicate that in the garage, which means I need to spend a little bit more money. I need to
Mhm.
be willing to sacrifice some things in order to sort of overcome the deficiencies of hard services everywhere, and it
Yeah.
can sound really good.
Yeah. So you mentioned the soft dome tweeter. So typically, soft dome tweeters, like you said, they have a characteristic of just not a very bright sound to it. It's very kind of laid back. So in the home theater space, I typically don't look for that. But it's interesting that that is a solution to a problem in the garage space that you found.
It certainly helps. Like, it helps to offset. It's
Mhm.
still not perfect, right?
Sure. Yeah.
but it helps to offset some of the deficiency of, shoot, you got your darn glass windows pointing
Mhm.
in a really weird angle right
Yeah.
there. It's firing stuff off the ceiling, off the floor, then back off the metal cabinets. And you generally don't have anything in the garage absorbing. I'm
Mhm.
not putting curtains in there. And
Right.
again, I thought a lot about doing acoustic treatments, but yeah, the Silk Dome tweeter is the first thing. That was the first
Mhm.
trial when I
Mhm.
had those clip speakers in my garage. I'm like, man,
Yeah.
I know this isn't going to be great, but it's what I got. And then to go to like the complete opposite and go to a really laid back,
Mhm.
really, flat sounding, Dynaudio Excite
Yeah.
made a big difference. Then I found I didn't have enough power to really make that sound good. So then I had to get another bigger amplifier, and then the snowball
Mhm.
you start to head down this path.
So when you're setting up like the Dyne Audio system, speaker placement is typically huge. Do you have a preferred location? Because I've watched, your videos and certain times they're on the desk itself or kind of like
Mhm.
behind you. It's on the cabinet countertop. Then other times you'll mount them up high and angle them down kind of towards the listening environment, listening position. What do you prefer? Is
So
there
the
a
first
better
so
location for the garage?
the first major concession you have to make is the room,
Mhm.
right? You make that concession.
Yeah.
Second major concession you're going to make is we're not going to sit in like a stereo image ultimate
Right.
position.
Mhm.
Right? I wanna be able to walk around the room and get, I'm not getting imaging. So I'm
Yeah.
giving up that pinpoint accurate image. The other thing is I'm generally don't wanna take my speakers, like, because usually my garage, the way I design garages, I try to get as big of a countertop as I can across the back wall.
Okay.
So generally speaking, my countertop is gonna be 20 something feet long.
Mhm.
So and my listening position is gonna be, say, 10 feet from say the countertop, and then my feet speakers are 22 feet wide. So I've got
Mhm.
a, I don't have a optimal equilateral triangle here,
Right. Yeah.
right? I'm not going to, because I'm moving around.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I don't want to take my speakers and put them in the middle of my countertop because then they're in the way and I'm going to
Mm.
damage them and bang stuff into them. And
Yeah.
so I either move them all the way out to the edge,
Mhm.
and then I wanna push them back which is the disadvantage because now I've got things firing off the countertop, right?
Yeah.
And
More
so I make that
reflective.
concession,
Yeah.
and then or in a perfect world, I wanna put them up on top of my cabinets, so that way they're just not in the way of work.
Mhm. Yeah.
Now that's a disadvantage, and so that's a major concession I've gotta make in that I'm not getting the stereo image anywhere in that place. Uh-oh, did your camera overheat?
No. What's it doing? What is it? I mean, I can hear it. It's still on.
Yep, I hear you. It says
Yeah.
EOS
It,
webcam utility.
um, something switched for some reason, but why? StreamYard says camera US web. Why did it do that? Like, why did it switch? Well, that was dumb. Yeah, for some reason it switched to something else. Interesting.
So yeah, to answer your question, placement, if I can get it up on the wall or
Mhm.
above my upper cabinets, even though it's not the optimal, at ear height, like face
Yeah.
face to tweeter, I'm generally going to make that concession as well, largely because I'm going to be walking around.
Mhm.
You know,
So when you and your team are designing a garage and when somebody that's watching your channel is considering putting a audio system in the garage, is this always a two speaker? Are there times where you feel that you need more than those two speakers can provide as far as output and coverage?
Well, I mean, ideally, you'd do like 7.1 in there right now. You could do like multi-channel surround and
Yeah.
um the other thing, like my last garage, which Rusty bought, that one I needed a center channel, so I did 5.1, and
Okay.
so I did 5.2 because I had 2 subwoofers, one on either side of the garage, and then I put a center channel in because I also found that if you are watching something, say, I'm not watching movies out there, at
Right.
least I'm not taking time to watch movies. If I'm watching
Sure.
something, it's in the background.
Right.
And so when you have your speakers, say, 20 feet apart,
Mhm.
it becomes really hard. It sounds too hollow, that it's because you don't get a stereo image. And so
Right.
it sounds like odd.
Do you
Uh,
feel like you're at that point, you're maybe it's almost like your brain is just hearing primarily one speaker?
I probably, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's for TV, it's not great. So
Mhm.
I'm starting to think. I've been thinking about this here recently. I also don't wanna do all the work to get all, 5.1 surround in my
Mhm.
garage, and so I'm starting to think the way to do it, if you're gonna put a TV in the garage,
Mhm. And I see you do that a lot.
always,
It's
I,
not even a lot, it's always.
oh, yeah, always.
You're going obsessed, put a TV there.
I think, I'm starting to think about doing a sound bar for the TV and then having just 2-channel audio for my
For
for my
music.
for my music, and
Okay.
just doing them in separate standalone systems. Because, again, when I'm watching TV, it's
Mhm.
always like, I was watching the show The Diplomat, it's
Yeah.
not like you're not, like, engaged with the soundtrack.
Mhm.
I'm not generally gonna watch movies out there. I'm gonna watch, Heartland on
Mhm.
Netflix,
Right.
and so I'm thinking, and I'm gonna try this out, that I'll put a sound bar like a Sennheiser Ambio Max
Mhm.
underneath the display, and then just keep my stereo speakers separate, which then
Okay.
adds even more money to the deal. So
Sure.
I've done the 2-channel, I've done the multi-channel full
Mhm.
surround. I'm
Mhm.
gonna try the 2 separate systems,
Mm.
and then we'll see which I like best. So
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that yet.
Okay. Well, that's all right. That'll be part of the journey that we were
Mhm.
talking about earlier. So you mentioned earlier too about bass. You like a lot of bass. I love a lot of bass. I don't want it overwhelming. I want it to be a balanced approach. But tell me a little bit about the Dynaudio subwoofer because it's a smallish subwoofer. In home theater, a lot of guys are running 12s, 15s. I run 18s, 4 of them. I know guys are running 24s and 32s, and it can kind of get insane. But in the garage space, there's probably a different approach to that because we're not needing those infrasonics. You're not watching Ready Player One to where you've got a dinosaur stomping and you really just want to feel that. So walk me through your process on what was that journey like deciding what speaker, what subwoofer to put in the garage, and how do you know how many to put in the garage? Do you put just one? Is one enough? When do you add the second one, or even do you have a big enough garage that you might need 3 or 4?
So a couple of things that I'm sure there's some math to back this, but a couple of things I've noticed is that this is where the room is not a negative because your garage is generally pretty big and long,
Mhm,
right? And a lot of times your listening position distance to the subwoofer is pretty significant,
mhm,
right? And so I find that even a smaller subwoofer, um, you're not gonna get the impact, like,
right,
it's not gonna hit you in the chest because of the room volume,
right,
but you're going to, because of the distance you have, you'll have pockets of really great bass.
mm,
And so in a perfect world, I'd have 4 subs in a garage. I haven't done that yet, but,
mm,
at least 2, because you're gonna have a lot of dead spots,
yeah,
and if you're rolling around on a stool, I'm gonna in, like, the back left corner of the car, and I'm getting destroyed, and then I'm in the front right
right,
corner of the car, and I've
right,
got nothing because 'cause I'm in a
yeah,
null,
right,
right? And so having a couple of subwoofers and then running some sort of simple room correction like
okay,
Direct Live or Odyssey or something like that, if you have the processor that has that ability,
mm,
having 2 subs would be ideal, but, oftentimes we're doing smaller ones because I don't know where to put it.
yeah,
and so I want to generally tuck it beside my cabinet or tuck it in a corner somewhere. And so I'm looking for subs that have a smaller footprint generally.
Mhm,
Now, if you have like an infinite size garage, you can put a giant, dual 18s or something. That'd be great.
mhm. Yeah.
But in most cases, again, I'm not going to have that option.
So the Dynaudio sub, tell me what you're running in that, like, is
So the
this
one I usually put
full?
is it's 4/8s.
Okay.
You know, so I got in trouble with saying 4/8 was the equivalent of 32. Well, no, own area, blah 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 blah. Whatever.
Yeah. Got
So,
those keyboard warriors out there. They're always gonna call you.
yeah. So again, none of this is. I'm just making all this up, right?
Yeah.
For the garage, and I've tried like 50 different things to see what does a good job,
Mhm.
and then I've sort of dumbed this down into progressive steps on systems. So,
Yeah.
yeah, Dynaudio Core 59 studio monitors would be great, but you've got what the 6 grand for your pair,
Mhm.
so $3,000 each, $4,000 subwoofer, so you're at 10,000 bucks there.
Yeah.
You've got a $2,500 processor preamp, so you're at 12.5. You've got some other like isoacoustic stands and things
Mhm.
like that, or mounts and wires, so you're at four, 13, 14, $15,000 for that. Just add a TV and you're at 20 G's,
Right.
and so that's a bit ridiculous. And so if you're not balling, or
Mhm.
secondly, if you're not all in on this, you're not willing
Sure.
to make too many other sacrifices elsewhere, then I built different steps and then
Right.
go down to like an entry level LYD series from Dynaudio, which is still near field,
Okay.
still Silk Dome, still studio monitor. It's missing the big amplifier,
Mhm.
so you're not going to be able to just destroy the room,
Okay.
but you're still going to be able to get some amplitude out of it. And then you just pick your size depending on how big your garage is. But you could do the same kind of system for 4 or 5,000 bucks,
Mhm.
and get the same result, maybe just not quite the same amplitude. And that's probably a smarter move. Instead of doing a Blue Sound Node Icon, I'm doing a Blue Sound Node, which
Mhm.
is $450 less.
Right.
The speakers are 800 bucks a piece instead of 3,000 a piece.
Yeah.
Do a smaller subwoofer for 2 grand instead of 4 grand. And we can design ourselves a really awesome system, similar outcome, just a bit more practical,
Mhm.
and we can kind of progress down from there. But the general theme I'm looking for is a tweeter.
Okay.
It is pretty laid back. I'm looking for a subwoofer that has some impact,
Mhm.
and I'm looking for a processor that has some room correction capability in a perfect world.
Gotcha.
And then I'm going to sacrifice my positioning,
Mhm.
obviously making a sacrifice in the room.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
those are the two things I'm going to give up. And the more money I spend, the returns diminish pretty quickly.
Mhm.
But the more money I spend, the better I feel about it anyway. So
It makes you feel good about the purchase at
makes
least.
me feel bad about the purchase, but then good about the purchase. It's like you took a drug and it makes you feel great, but you feel bad about it because it's not good for your long term health. That kind of thing.
I love it. I love it. You mentioned something too about, you're making this stuff up. And
Mm,
so in the home theater space, I've kinda had to do the same thing when I do, like, a home theater tour. Nobody was doing that 7 years ago, and I began to go to different people's homes, share about their journey, talk about their gear, and so I'm having to figure stuff out, and so I love the fact that you're willing as a person, an entrepreneur, a business owner, to take some steps, to take that risk that you were talking about earlier, to dive into the unknown, to figure this stuff out. And one thing that I've watched you over the years that I really appreciate, Matt, is you're okay with being wrong. You're
mhm,
okay with getting it wrong. And I think that's something that we all can take away and go, man, maybe I need to be okay with being wrong sometimes. I know one of my biggest fears throughout life is the fear of failure. If I
mm,
try this, what if it doesn't work out? Well, my wife taught me a long time ago, you can't live on the what ifs. I mean, I guess you can, but that's not a healthy approach to life. We're challenging you guys that are watching this to take the step to go into the unknown, to to venture out into something that's uncomfortable, something that you're maybe not knowledgeable in. That's what our channel is about. We want to help guide you, to teach you, to educate you. We're doing the hard work. Like, we're willing to buy the speakers, to buy the subwoofers, to try 7 speakers in a garage and go, "Oh, that sucked. That didn't work out," or "That's impractical for most people." Because you may not be willing to do that, but that's our hope as content creators, as enthusiasts, that we can provide those resources to you so that it'll save you time, it'll save you money, save you headache. But don't be scared to try some things on your own as well to see if it works. You may find that placing your speakers in a certain position in your room gives a great result. And some of that's just trial and error.
I think you touched on something there, made me think about something a little bit differently. What about being wrong? Um, I don't like being wrong. In fact, I like to be right so much that I'm willing to be wrong a bunch in order to eventually be right.
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying? I never
Yeah.
really thought about this before. Like I'll buy, like so, like the Dyne Audio speakers, the Core 59, like buying their studio monitors was not the only reason I bought those.
Hmm.
To be perfectly honest with you, I became a Dyne Audio dealer,
Hmm.
and I wanted to buy everything that they made,
Yeah.
mainly just so that I could touch it, feel it, discover it. And the cores and the LYD speakers, I just kind of like, I don't really want to buy these, but yeah, and I was like back and forth. I'm like, I don't. They're DJ speakers, so I
Hmm.
thought. I mean, these are recording studio speakers. I'm like, but what if?
Mm.
What if there was something? What if there's something in there that I'm missing? And I did the same thing with PSB and NAD, and then of course all the detailing stuff and all the garage stuff, and buying different types of flooring, getting different light bulbs,
Mhm.
getting different light fixtures, different tools, buying all this stuff. It's fun for me. That's
Yeah.
that's what gets me, makes me wade out into the water, right?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
come up to chest level on the risk is I really I like that process. Um, but I'm willing to be wrong in order to become ultimately right.
Mm.
And I think that's a requisite in life is to if you're stuck on, man, I can never be wrong, then how are you going to ultimately be right at the end?
Yeah.
Because you may not go deep enough, far enough into the water to figure out if
Mhm.
you are actually correct.
Yeah.
And then what's happened over the years, I've had to learn how to mature online specifically because, people are in real time. In the very beginning, it was very easy because I was sharing everything that I knew.
Mhm.
And that happened, that, sort of ran out of that about a year in.
Right.
And then it was starting to share, well, what do I not know? And
Right.
sharing the discovery process,
Correct.
the
Yeah.
learning process,
Yeah.
the getting it wrong
Yeah.
process. And then you know, I had no problem with people telling me I'm wrong, but if they were
Mhm.
just not, they're sort of ignorant in what I'm doing here, not understanding what I'm doing, that would always frustrate me. And now and then there's a lot of imposter syndrome in the
Yeah.
beginning, and now I
Sure.
feel like, man, I think I probably made it. I think I can survive. And so now I can really be wrong, enjoy the
Mm.
being wrong process because that the wrong is just all the wrongs are a summation to the being right at the end. Trying a bunch of screwdrivers to then find the screwdriver that I like.
Right.
And then having the confidence to say, you know what, if I like this, a lot of people are going to like this too.
Mhm.
Even if may not technically be correct because I haven't found, maybe there's a better screwdriver that I just haven't found yet.
Sure.
And so the adage always I was always like, this is how I do it.
Mhm.
This is how I do it. And period.
Right.
Instead of, well, this is how I do it. Your way can be good too. No, no, no.
Right.
This is just how I do it. Period.
Yeah.
This isn't how to do it.
Right.
I'm not making that definitive statement, but
Sure.
I'm also not discounting all the being wrongs and all the
Mhm.
testing, all the trial and error.
Right.
So I've got to learn to just say, "This is how I do it,
Mhm.
period," without
Right.
a disclaimer.
Mm.
There's no reason to disclaim because I've
Right.
put in a lot of work.
Yeah, yeah.
I've taken a lot of risk, and I've been wrong a lot.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean that I'm completely right or ultimately right yet, but I don't wanna disclaim the work and say, "Well, this is what I really like, and if you what you like is what you like more."
Mhm.
What I found is that I like this speaker the most.
Mhm.
Here's why,
Yeah.
period. And that what I found is the disclaiming and the attempting to get people to like you
Mhm.
makes them dislike you more.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep. 100%.
So I'm not willing to be wrong. I don't like being wrong.
Mm.
I'm not okay with being wrong. I'm just blindly in pursuit of the correct, wisdom-based,
Mm.
objectively correct being right. That's the pursuit. And then eventually being okay with that means that there's no longer arrogance. There's no longer because arrogance is just insecurity masked in bravado, right?
Yeah.
And so there's no need to be sort of demeaning or arrogant about it. People, I think, oftentimes will misconstrue this is the one I think you should get,
Mm.
period,
Right.
as being arrogant, but it's really not, you know. It's the well, you suck, this is better, I did more work than you did, so you should buy this. That's
Right.
what arrogance looks like, you know.
Yeah. My mom always used to say, "It's not what you say, it's how you say it." I think you can tell somebody what they need, but how you tell them why they need it or that they need it is gonna drastically
For me, it's always
change.
the underlying intention. It's not how I say it, it's what I actually believe.
But do you think that the belief drives how we say it?
No,
Okay.
I think that you can still be very matter of fact, very crass, very
Mm.
specific, very direct.
Mhm.
And as long as I actually believe it and mean
Mhm.
it,
Mhm.
I firmly believe that the correct people will perceive it the way it is intended.
Mm.
Now, yes, language matters,
Mhm.
but let's say I didn't believe it,
Mhm.
but I used the correct words.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, yeah. I think it goes both ways.
Yeah, because then I'm just lying to you, you know?
But, yeah, I think the thing is that you can say the right thing and have the wrong motive, but you can
Mm,
also have the right motive and say it a wrong way. I think it can go both ways. I
mm,
think there's value in that, and as I get older, as I mature, as I begin to change the way I interact with people and really kinda refine who I am and how I communicate with people, I strive to have both. I wanna have that matter of fact, but I wanna do it in a way that's well received.
mhm.
Um, but that's how I'm wired, and you're gonna be wired different
Well, I
and
think I think you're right though that if you are if you do believe it,
Mhm,
then the words you choose
mhm,
will be different and by chance, by or more likely than not, the correct. And then if you're really present in it, you'll be able to convey that message and have people receive it where they are.
mhm.
And you can be direct, but still not, repelling or turning people off or demeaning or whatever.
Yeah,
But there's always gonna be a subset that doesn't matter what you say and how you say it.
100%.
They're gonna be looking for an ulterior motive.
Yeah,
The predictors, I call
yeah,
those people who always like to make big predictions.
yeah,
Stock market's gonna go down. Well, yeah, it will at some point, and they'll just keep saying it, and then see when it does go down. See, I've been saying this forever.
yeah,
I said, yeah, well, but you're wrong like 75% of the time. So
right.
what are we doing here?
Yeah. Your style of approach in your video content and my style of approach is really quite different, but I experience the same thing. I can say it as nice as can be, and I can smile and I can be energetic, and I still get, those that will crap on what I'm saying, or
Yeah.
they, maybe there's jealousy because I'm doing something that they wish they could do, or they watch you and like, man, must be nice. I love that one. It must be nice. Like, yeah, it must be nice to film and edit 1,150 something videos on my channel, spend 7 years of my life building a business. Yeah, it must be nice that I'm willing to work for it. This stuff isn't handed to me. Nothing that you've got was handed to you. You busted your butt to get where you're at. And I always look at it, I'd rather look at somebody that is where I want to be with admiration and inspiration than to look at that and go, must be nice. Because that's just an excuse.
So I think the evolved answer to that rebuttal, or the rebuttal to that rebuttal, right? To that person saying must be
Mhm.
nice.
Mhm.
It must be nice to be rich.
Mhm.
So, it is really nice to be rich.
Right.
Period. Right? Because the disclaiming you just did,
Yeah.
you're telling the
The
story,
reasons, yeah.
so we're not really confident in that story quite yet.
Mm,
Because when I say, "Yeah, it really is nice to be rich,"
yeah.
period,
Mm,
because there's all the confidence in all of what you just disclaimed, all of
yeah.
what you just said,
Right. Yeah.
is part of this. So, and I think you can smile, and say, I never really thought about this. It it really is nice to be rich."
Yeah, this is fun.
And you kind of think about it, you look them in the eye, and you just move on to the next topic,
Right.
right? And I honestly believe that if you say it that way and you believe it,
Mhm.
I believe it because I'm confident in the work and
Mhm.
all the things you just mentioned and then
Yeah.
some,
Yeah.
that most people are going to receive
Mm.
that all that work. Like,
Yeah.
they're gonna receive all of that.
Yeah.
And a good percentage, some are going to, they're gonna, make up a story. They're all gonna make up a story.
Mhm.
Um, but if you do what you just did, you are, I think, demeaning because
Mm.
they haven't done any of that.
Right.
And so it kind of backfires on us
Mm.
in that instead of just, you know what? It really is nice to be rich. I
Mm.
never really thought about that. It's great. Period. I hope that happens for you too.
That's awesome.
Because if we go through well, I did this and
Right.
this and this, and they're thinking, "Well, I haven't done any of that, I haven't done any of that." Yeah, you do you suck even more.
So, like you said,
So
that's
our
yeah.
intended reaction, our
Mm.
insecure reaction is to share all of the detail.
Right, yeah.
These speakers in the garage, we just explained why. Near field,
Mhm.
making sacrifices here. We just talked about all the reasons why in the garage, right? The garage is not a great listening position, but here's why I'm doing it.
Right.
Um, um, we just disclaimed and told the whole story behind it. But what I can do in my position in life now is I can say, these speakers, uh, here's progression. So here's basic, advanced, ultimate. I
Mhm.
think you should get the ultimate. If you want to read, I've done a lot of research on this. I've tried a lot of different things, but these are the speakers that I think you should get, and they cost
Yeah,
$12,000. Period.
right. Mm. No reasoning, it's just
Instead of, well,
I've already done the hard work. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And
Not
so, but then
convincing.
there is, and if you'd like to hear more of the story,
Mm.
the links are in the description.
Yeah,
Period.
right.
Right?
Yeah.
We're just figuring. See, this is why I love doing this
Yeah,
podcast.
man, this is fun. I got a
And
couple more questions if you're cool with that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you mentioned earlier about calibration. So again, in home theater, that's a big part of it. You get your room right as best you can, but we all have limitations in a room, just like in a garage. In a home theater or even in a two-channel setup, you're placing a mic in a specific position. And you mentioned Direct Live, you mentioned Odyssey. Where do you place the mic? Do you run multiple positions? Because ideally, I mean, you're going to be all around the garage, and maybe what do you? I guess what I'm trying to wrap my head around is what is the calibration going to like? What's it listening for? Because we can't really accurately paint a picture of that entire garage. And I mean, it's just impossible to optimally EQ every space in that. And so just curious, like what's your process on that? What's
What
your
I'm looking for, since we don't have the center image, right? Since we don't have the prime seating
Mhm,
location to target or to work around,
correct.
I'm listening tonally.
Mm,
I'm looking for that just that enjoyable
okay.
tone. And so I'm looking to, with calibration, to offset some of the room's natural characteristics, and I'm looking to make my speakers sound, a bit more laid back in a
Okay.
not so laid back room. So I'm looking to sort of offset that.
Sure.
And so rather than, trying to, we're not trying to maximize the panning of our,
Mhm.
Atmos, raindrops and stuff like that.
Right.
And I'm not even looking for a tight center image.
Mm,
I'm looking for as echoless, as hollowless, as simple, just flat sounding, garage as I can make. And so, Dirac's going to make you put it in sort of pseudo position. So I'm still
mhm.
going to position the microphone,
Okay.
but
Somewhere in the middle of the room.
I'm gonna make bigger moves. I'm gonna put
Mm,
it in the center, and
okay.
then the lower, lower whatever they call it, lower left, I'm gonna put it way down low and way up front, and then way toward the back door. So I'm just gonna move the mic around quite a bit more than I would before,
Okay.
just to give as good of a picture as I
Mm,
can. I guess in a perfect world, you'd probably in Dirac you'd use the widely focused
correct.
image,
Right. Yep.
which gives you like 24 points. Now,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be
Nobody's
honest.
doing that.
Most of the time
Nobody's
in the
doing that.
garage, I'll run 3 and call it
Yeah.
a day, you
Yeah.
know?
And again, I don't think you can paint an accurate picture for it to know what's really going on in that room because there's so many different
But
positions in that room that you could be.
yeah, but in that room, from an EQ or from a calibration perspective, it's a
Mm,
much simpler room than most rooms you're gonna be in
mm,
with seating and
mm,
sconces and treatments
mhm,
and your bar is on the left side. You got all kinds of crap going on in a home theater
mm.
oftentimes versus this is a rectangle. It's
With
very
massive reflections, yeah.
Yeah, very simple rectangle.
Mhm, yeah.
And so, yes, it's probably more complex in
Mhm,
the amount of absorption you have,
yeah.
but less complex in that there's less going on in the room.
Yeah, and so I was just my thought there is I could not see the value in running 20 points in that room, you know? I think we're just gonna give it a sample of what the room is doing
Yep.
and then let it do I like what you said, letting it make some changes, but then the good thing about Direct Live is you can go in there and kinda tweak it. You can
Right.
make your
So
own
if
house
it's feeling
curve.
harsh or it's feeling, if it's feeling a little
Yep.
light in the mid range,
Yep.
and you can see it on the darn
Yeah.
curve. You can
Right.
see, oh man, I can hear that dip, and you can
Right.
go and and correct for it.
Mhm.
And when I'm doing a garage, I mean, we're talking like a 15-minute deal here.
Yeah,
Is
yeah. Not
all I really
3.5 hours, not 4 days of calibration.
Right, right.
Mhm.
I'm gonna do like 1 or 2 ABs, and
Yeah,
that's about it.
yeah.
Usually, I'm gonna try to, and almost always I'm running the, high frequencies. I'm trying to tune
Mhm.
some of that out,
Yeah,
to keep it very laid back sounding,
yeah.
and
Makes sense.
then usually jacking the bass up.
Yeah, totally good. I like bass. So, got one final question. This one actually comes from one of your subscribers. Nathan says, "When considering garage audio, is the square footage more important or the shape of your garage more important to distinguish what speakers, what amplifiers, and etcetera that you need for your space, or are they equally important?"
I think it's more. I think the better question there, or the follow up question to that is, how loud do you want to listen, and
Mhm.
what are your neighbors like? Are so are you listening to music with the doors open?
Mm.
You live in like my neighborhood where there's people right all around you,
Right.
and so those will help determine. So let's say you had a really big, like 1,000 square foot garage, but the door's always open, and you got a neighbor right across the street. Well, doing core 59s, probably doesn't make sense because you're never going to be able to turn it up. So I
Correct.
can go down a few steps, and so I think because I would put core 59s in a tiny garage too if I
Mhm.
had the ability to jam out if I wanted to.
Right.
So I think the better question is, how loud do you want it to be? If it's just light background listening, then I can
Mhm.
go way down the spectrum, way down the price sheet, right, and buy some cheaper stuff.
Mhm.
So, I I I'm not in the need business.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. No one needs any audio in their garage at all.
Right.
I'm in
Yeah.
the want business,
Mhm.
and so I'm looking at it purely budgetary,
Yeah.
right? How much money you got, and
Mhm.
that will determine what speakers I get, with the one exception of if I can't turn it up anyway, then
Mhm.
I'm not gonna go to that level. That would be the one thing that would make me pull back, but I'm telling you, you could buy a set of AM3s in a 1,000 square foot garage and have, they're like a $300 pair of PSP, little wireless Bluetooth speakers,
Right.
and it's gonna be a vast improvement over,
Yeah.
your little junk that most people normally put in the garage.
Sure.
Now, is that going to allow you to get the crazy impact in your 1,000 square foot garage if that's what you're looking for? The answer is no.
Right.
So I think that the biggest question is how loud do you want it,
Mhm.
and then how much money you got.
So probably what are your goals? Like, what do you want to achieve in this room? Are you wanting to feel it? Are you wanting to feel the bass? Are you wanting to just hear it? Are you going to be cranking it up? So I think all of those are going to play an important factor on the equipment that they buy. One thing that you mentioned too in the bass that I just thought about is when you start cranking it, like you mentioned earlier, like sometimes you just want to jam on it. I'm assuming garage door, does that thing start rattling?
Yeah.
Is there anything that you can do or anything that you do to mitigate that, or you just let it rattle, or because I would imagine like people
I start
outside.
chasing. I start, start tightening stuff up and
Mm.
trying to figure out a way to get
I was
that
just
thing
wondering if the
fixed.
metal itself would just start flexing. Well, I guess you're not pressurizing that room though.
Yeah, my
Mm.
my slat wall is vibrating now, so that's probably why I'll never do slat wall again.
Right.
Um, yeah, you mean turn your subwoofer down a little bit or just go try to
Mm.
fix those
Mm.
those rattles. It's no different than any other room,
Yeah,
though.
I
There's
was just
probably less
curious.
rattles in your garage than there would be in the house.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I think that part of why I built obsessedgarage.com
Mhm.
was to take all the being wrongs,
Mhm.
aggregate all the things I've gotten right, to skip, in some cases, skip all the way to the best, all the
Right.
way to the end.
Yeah.
In other cases, I haven't found the end of the rainbow yet. I'm still
Mhm.
chasing it, right? But but I would use obsessedgarage.com if you aren't like all in on this and you don't know more than I know about it, or you have and this is assuming you haven't gone and tested a billion different things and done
Sure.
more than I've done.
Yeah.
And assuming that you look at me and like everything I like, you like I'm wearing a blue shirt and you would never wear blue, it's
Mhm.
assuming that we have similar tastes.
Right.
I would just use the darn Obsessed Garage website
Mm.
and look at your bank account and
Mhm.
decide how much money do you want to spend on this,
Mm.
and then pick the thing that intrigues you the most.
Mm.
Because if you're not like me, if you're
Yeah.
not this insane and you're not afflicted with all this crap, this is the same thing with you in home theater.
Yeah.
If you're not as all in on it,
Mhm.
and if you don't like vehemently oppose what I'm saying or you're saying,
Right.
then just freaking, and you should never trust anybody who says this, but just trust me, you know,
Right. Yeah.
just trust the site and
Mhm.
go and choose how much you want to spend.
Yeah.
So to answer his question, I don't think there is like I'm sure there's a scientific
Mhm.
formula for it,
Yeah.
but the things that would drive my decision would be, what do I really want?
Mm.
Again, not what I need. We're not in the need business.
Sure.
What do I see on the Obsessed Garage site that like gets me like, and I really you're getting that attraction, like you're being
Mm.
pulled toward it.
Right.
Because even if it's not great or it's not the ultimate for you, if you
Uh-huh.
get pulled toward it,
Mm.
you're gonna like it more. The only thing that could happen, and this is what I'm hoping Obsessed Garage completely eradicates or
Mm.
almost completely eradicates, is you get pulled toward it, so you get duped into it, and then you
Mhm.
get it, and it's a major disappointment.
Correct. Yeah.
That's the worst,
Right.
especially when you've sold yourself on it, and then you get it, you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, man, this is" I mean, people are watching in real time. My
Yeah.
entire existence is that.
Exactly.
"Oh, I thought this was gonna be amazing, and then I bought all this stuff, and then it's just not right."
Mhm.
So, I think that didn't answer his question other than go on the site, look at the speakers, and then I don't think you can spend too much in too small of an area.
Yeah.
You could put Core 59s and dual core subs in a one-car garage and freaking love every second of it.
Mm.
And I don't think you can go too small in a speaker in a too big of a garage as long as you're not looking for a major impact.
Mhm. You gotta know its limitations and stay within those limitations.
And you can bank on your gut and how much money you're spending on what impact you're gonna get.
Mm.
Just use your gut there. But there's no, like, exact right formula, I don't think.
Yeah. Makes sense. Man, this has been super fun. Is there any other questions or thoughts that you wanna kind of, just kinda drop to as we wrap up and land this plane?
I don't think so. I mean, I think what you're going to see on this podcast, I told you we'd have this sort of natural discussion of we're talking about garage audio, which you don't know
Mm.
jack about,
No.
and I've talked about it at nauseum. But there's a bigger underlying to all things obsessed. Uh, so to me, almost everything in my life is more complicated. This is a this is a good and bad thing is much more complicated than just this material object. You
Mhm.
know, this sweatshirt I'm wearing there's a longer, bigger story to that has more to do with just than just the sweatshirt. And so the same thing with garage audio in the garage. There's a story to why, but
Mhm.
I think there's a bigger life picture in that we can discuss and talk through and think about. And this epiphany I just had, where it's not about like I'm not okay with being wrong. It's that I really want to be right so much so that I'm willing to
Mm.
sink a few battleships on the way to the ultimate win at the end.
Mm.
Sacrificing sacrificing my financial independence, my future, and my kids' college education in
Right.
order to figure out what the best speaker is for the garage.
Mm.
And I don't know if I found it, but what I found is great.
Mm.
Period. Period to be continued. And that to me is the journey.
I love it.
And then, that having that need, having that pursuit of the destination, I think is an important ingredient. You have this too. I mean, you did that, yeah, I feel like I'm at my end game, but what if there's something a little bit better out there? Let me keep chasing that.
Yeah.
Because if you get to the end, you're dead. I mean, what do
Yeah.
you, you know, get to the end and it's like, well, shoot, now what? Let's keep chasing this. Let's keep confirming it. I hope I'm right in the very first pair of speakers I get. I hope I'm right.
Mm.
But I'm going to confirm and confirm and confirm,
Right.
and I'm going to enjoy the confirmation process.
Yeah. And that's part of what it's interesting with Obsessed Home Theater. You would think that we would get it all figured out and then launch this business, but we're kind of going at it in reverse. It's like, we're just going to bring my audience and bring your audience along that journey. We're going to figure it out together. We're going to find those amazing products for the garage, find those amazing products for the home, find those amazing products for the home theater,
Mm-hmm.
and just get behind them.
Even think about the that discovery process we've gone through with the, like the per listen stuff. I don't know about you, but I feel really great. I really like them. I feel
Yeah.
really great about it. It there's also some extreme value in the decades of trial and error that you
Mhm.
have gone through and I've gone through. A lot of that experience has happened. So the the early experience is the foundation
Mhm.
laying for the current experience, but the current experience is happening much faster. It's exponential. The scale is logarithmic here.
Right.
And so like even the detailing, like all that I had learned took, say 15 years to learn. And then the last 5 years was learning at a pace that, at a size and scale that was much more, parabolic, much
Mhm.
quicker, much more robust. And then you start to get resources behind it. You start to get, you get inside information, you get access, and the thing just exponentially explodes, the
Right.
information provided. And so, I feel really good about, say to get to per listen, uh, we took a roundabout route to get there. And I think the speakers are still too much money for most people,
Mhm.
but it's the thing. It's the
Mm.
thing you should want. It's the thing you should get for, your family room theater. And so but it takes us a while to kind of get through that. But we're not starting at base foundation. The foundation's already built, so we're able to do this at an exponential pace.
Yeah.
It was the same thing with, speakers in the garage. I had a good foundation to know where to even start.
Right. Yeah.
Silk Dome Tweeter, start with that.
Mhm.
Then discovering near field. Oh
Yeah.
man, I didn't think about that. But let me just try
Right.
that. Oh yeah, that's good. I like that. That works well. Things like that. The base knowledge, the base trial and error, the base being wrong over the
Mhm.
years helps to exponentially increase the speed at which we can do this.
Sure.
And then in obsessed home theater case, we can move at an even quicker pace because all the back end stuff that was
Mhm.
holding me back, we can eliminate. And then, so what you'll see if you go to the site, you'll see, Kaleidoscape. Kaleidoscape is the thing that's completely blown my mind.
Mhm.
I love it. I absolutely, positively love it. And it's something that it's just like Apple. I was anti-Apple. Apple's for artists.
Right.
I can remember there's a brand new Merrill Lynch office. I remember standing next to the filing cabinet when my buddy Grant said he was thinking
Mhm.
about getting an Apple, and I remember just scoffing at that and saying,
Mhm.
"That's stupid."
Right.
And then I remember within months of that going into the Apple store with Michelle and getting a MacBook Pro for her and just completely in love, falling completely out of love with my opinion, not experience, my opinion,
Mhm.
which was backed by nothing. And then, just that was a seminal moment in my life to not get dug in on any one thing. I forget where I was going with that. What were we just talking about? Being wrong. Oh, the speed at which Obsessed Home Theater and Kaleidoscape. And so I was very much so like that with Kaleidoscape, but because of that Apple experience,
Mhm.
I wasn't dug in. I listened to you guys and I got one and I just freaking love it. So those of you, there's many of you that are watching this that are talking this Plex and what's that other bull crap that everybody does?
Cody, and there's a few of them.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, if you look at your bank account, it looks rather robust, and you like movies, you will freaking love this thing. And you get into the special, what is it? Special
Just the digital?
pricing, the special pricing list or whatever, the special collection or whatever they call it, collections. and you go to special promotions or whatever,
Mhm.
and that's where I bought like 600 movies.
Right. So you just go and you find the Youth Man deals is what I call them on my channel.
Yeah, I just use that as my list to buy,
Right.
and they're, $5 to $10 off of a,
Mhm.
so they're 25 to 50% off.
Yeah.
And almost every movie in their catalog shows up there at some point. So
Mhm.
I'm getting like, 2 for 3, or whatever, 3 for 2,
Yeah.
whatever.
A lot of times if you think about a movie, you're like, "I don't really wanna watch it now," but if you just bookmark it, you'll
Yeah.
literally start getting emails down the road that says, "Hey, this just went on sale. It was
Mm,
30 bucks, now it's 20 bucks, or it was 20 bucks, now it's $10."
mm.
So I get emails all the time like, I need it," and then I buy it.
But something like that to then put it on the site and then to share with people, "Hey, you
Mhm.
can buy this anywhere. I'd really like for you to honor the source."
Yeah.
Same thing with Garage Audio.
Mhm.
I know that you can buy audio stuff anywhere,
Yep.
and, I'd love it if you'd go to Obsessed Garage and buy it, because of all of this work, period.
Mhm.
Anyway, thanks everybody for listening. We'll start digging into some other we have a whole list of topics we wanna
Oh,
go
yeah.
through.
We're gonna have fun.
Yeah, yeah, where we somehow turn a pair of speakers into the garage into an existential life crisis that we get to solve by the end of the podcast. So, anyway, thanks everybody for listening. We will see you next week.